Yeah, I'm seeing that if I go up way loud, is that yeah, that's not really
It's
messing
way
with
loud.
my yeah, it's way I'm just trying to look and see how it's affecting the waveform. It's doing about what it did before, which last week before.
Ah,
So hey Rando kiddo. All right. So yeah, for I got 12, almost 13 minutes of story time in for our patrons, and then we spent the rest of the time trying to figure out why no other app could hear me when I was using Reaper. So we've got it fixed, and like to hear it. Here we go.
Get ready to laugh out loud with Wise and Nerdy, the show hosted by two hilarious
Shut up,
dads who
Mike.
get ready to laugh out loud with Wise and Nerdy, a show hosted by two hilarious dads who are bringing their unique blend of wit, wisdom, and nerdiness to the airwaves. From sharing hilarious anecdotes about their own experiences to giving advice on navigating the ups and downs of life, these two dads have got you covered. But that's not all. They're also obsessed with all things nerdy, from comic books and sci-fi movies to video and board games. So whether you're a fellow dad, a pop culture fanatic, or just in need of a good laugh, tune in to Wise and Nerdy and join in the fun.
And fun it is. Welcome to Where Fatherhood Meets Fandom. We are your lovely hosts of Wise and Nerdy. I had Charles Rock out of podcasting. Over there is Joe, embrace the no beard ard, and safely back from some unknown territories in the middle of international waters, Tan Daddy Kurt.
Yes.
Oh,
How you doing?
Goodness. Good, man. How was the cruise?
It was great. It was
yeah,
great.
We don't care. We missed you though.
Couldn't ask for better weather. It was pretty outstanding. So
Speaking of outstanding, I saw you outstanding on the deck when you did videos on your TikTok. Oh.
Yep.
And so you made it back, and then Joe, you're going to be gone next week.
Yes. I had to think about
Joe,
what's going on.
Were you aware that Kelsey said you're going to be gone next week?
Well, so I might not be gone next week.
Oh,
I need to figure it out.
Kelsey, know this?
Yeah. So, I mean, a little bit behind baseball, I guess, but I was originally going to be gone camping the 12th to the 15th, and now I'm going to be there at the beginning, and then I'm going to leave in the middle and go back at the end because I have a jury summons for the 14th.
Now, okay,
so
that's an interesting question. I'm going to preempt this. You put a question up here. Let's go to this question of the week. Have you ever had to deal with jury summons and or been on a jury?
I have not ever. I've had one jury summons, but it was my license was still in Washington when I was living in Idaho at the time. And so I just called them up. I'm like, I don't live there anymore. And they're like, okay. So
what about you, Kurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got out of a bunch, but I did have to go to a selection once and sat in the waiting room for 4 hours just to be told, okay, you guys can go home.
I've heard those stories.
Yep.
Now, how did you get out of them? How'd that work?
So at least I got them in when I was in California, and at least there it was very much a you could tell them that you had a work conflict.
Okay.
That kind of thing. And that's how I got out of them. But you couldn't do that if you got called in the same year again.
Interesting. So when you did you have to go to the courthouse to then say, hey, I have a work conflict? Or
not in California because they had a way to do it online.
So same with Georgia. So except Georgia's so weird too. So Joe, I have a similar story to you. Is I'd moved from one county to another and been gone for a year. Now, I'd been living in that county for a long time and working for EMS for a long time in that county. We finally moved, and about a year later, I got my first summons sent to my new address in a whole nother county going, we're putting you on jury duty. I called them up because this was a small county, and I called them up and I said, hey, does it matter that I don't live in that county anymore? I'm like, oh no, sweetheart, you don't have to come in. That was, it was very, very country county. but twice now in Hoodlum County that I live in, I have been summoned, and they do have an online way to do it, Kurt. And that's why I was asking, because there's all kind of different ways to do it. Like the country one, I still didn't have to go in, but I had to call somebody, call a phone line, or go in. And in Rockdale County where I live, both times it has this thing online and it says check in the night before. And so the first one I got, I literally did check in. You have to wait till after 5 on the Friday before, whatever it is. And I did check in online, and that one said, no, you've been dismissed. Don't worry about it. This time was a week or two ago. And I was going to follow instructions, going to wait till Friday after 5 to check in. And like Thursday morning, I get a text on my phone, from the number that matched the letter that they sent saying, hey, all jurors are dismissed. So I've never had to go and sit in that room, because I think that'd be worse, Kurt.
It's
I don't
bad.
mind like being summoned, and I'm not going, I don't mind going if I have to, but to sit in a room for 4 hours for them to come out and go, peace out, yo. No, I want to say guilty on somebody. Somebody. Come on.
After all that time.
Maybe it's a good thing you weren't in the jury.
Yeah, they start asking those disqualifications. I'm like, well, Your Honor, if you look at Wise and Nerdy for June 6th,
they're guilty.
I'm just letting you know.
Yep.
I don't know if I believe in innocence or guilt or the system at all, but this will surely make an entertaining story on my show. So I'm all for it, man. What'd they do? What'd they do? Touch a dog? Steal a kid? Come on. What'd they do? I got you.
Guilty.
Now I've
Patreon.com/wise and nerdy if you want an innocent verdict.
Now I've watched a lot. I've watched a lot of court cases on YouTube, because a lot of judges and courtrooms are now broadcasting live.
Yeah.
I'm
loving
so
this
there are some courtrooms and some judges I would love to be in the courtroom for.
No kidding, right?
Because they are awesome.
I saw a clip either last week or the week before of a guy who was attending digitally for his court appearance, and he called in while driving. He's like, I'm parking, it's okay.
Video. Yes.
And his court summons was for him driving with an expired license.
Yeah.
And the judge was just like, really?
And then when they told us, like, you have to turn yourself in, you're remanded to custody for like 6 months until the next year, whatever. He's like, oh Lord.
And it was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, he was like,
yeah.
What? I'm like, what did you expect to happen?
It's lift, man. Get a lift. Come on.
Some people aren't the brightest. And the ones that I have a particular affinity for watching are the sovereign citizens.
I want to have an affinity for it, but it's the same stupidness over and over.
No, that's the thing. Like, nobody learns anything.
Right. No,
they question the jurisdiction of the judge, and the judge goes, yeah, so you're talking nonsense, but you can sit in the cell and we can talk about who has jurisdiction over who. And that's what usually ends up happening.
They'll talk over you. Like, go ahead, talk about jurisdiction, Kurt.
Yeah, so
Your Honor, I want to know what jurisdiction this is in.
So this is the jurisdiction that was granted to me by the state
Your Honor,
of Georgia.
I want you to answer, what jurisdiction is this in? Whose jurisdiction is it? Yeah.
Is this a criminal or an admiralty jurisdiction?
It's like, what the fuck?
It's like, what are you talking about?
I don't understand. This is worse than flat earthers. I don't look. I'm not going to argue with a flat earther. To me, that's like veganism, whatever. Hey, you know what? I don't really care. I don't really care if we don't go crazy. When you want me to believe that every airline pilot in the world and every satellite photo of every country everywhere is wrong, that the world's okay, whatever. But you want to talk about some other stuff, whatever. But this is worse. This sovereign citizen thing is like, just crazy, man.
They pick and choose what they want to read from the Constitution because they always quote the Constitution.
Oh, yeah.
Except they always forget the 10th Amendment, which grants states rights to govern themselves. But whatever.
But let's be true. Let's be truthful. They're not quoting the Constitution
No,
like they
they're not.
read it. They are quoting some BS they saw online,
and they print it out because they all have binders. They all have binders.
Yeah, they're not even scrolling on their phone. It's like a big blue binder they flip through.
And I should apologize ahead of time because we probably just lost all of our sovereign citizen viewership. So,
or they'll call in and want to argue with us. One of the two.
Oh, that would be awesome. Please call our speak pipes. Please call our speak pipe. I would love to listen to.
We need a new link. We need a new link. It should be wiseandnerdy.com/come at me, bro. It takes you to speak pipes, just like Call Dad does. But yeah, these daddies are ready to rumble. Come on, man.
It's insane. It's just insane. And part of it, I feel bad for some of these people because they've been fed this line and believe it now. And it's just terrible because nobody wins anything. Like they win time. Free room and board is what they win. They win free room and board.
Yeah.
For stupid little crimes. Like they could get a fine for $100.
And then they talk themselves into so much more.
Yeah.
Random kid is close. If a flat earther has a baby with a sovereign citizen, it would be the dumbest kid on the planet. You're close. If a flat earther had a baby with a sovereign citizen, it'd be the epitome of being homeschooled.
Except you're both wrong because what everyone knows, kids rebel. So if a flat earther and a sovereign citizen had a baby, this kid would go, Mom, Dad, the earth is round and we have laws. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Now, Joe, I heard that my wife's going to hear this episode and get on me, tone in your voice, about homeschoolers. No, okay, not that kind. Yeah, sorry, no, this is. But tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. That 90% of homeschoolers. See, you were homeschooled. This is why I know you're off.
I wasn't homeschooled.
Shut up, Mormon. So, homeschooling. 90% of the homeschoolers are zombie. Like they zone out. They don't get social interaction. It's the no TV. No. If that's not been your experience. Well,
I think
you don't leave more in your.
I think that's the stigma, or that's how people view it. But in reality, that hasn't been my case interacting with homeschoolers in our area.
Good for you. I mean that. I do mean that. I'm the rock god of homeschooling, baby. I came up when that stuff wasn't a thing, and we helped work. It wasn't just me. There's communities. There was other stuff. We brought it to where it is now. I told my wife last night, no, I hate homeschoolers. They're like children of the corn. Most of them. Here's a stereotype that I lived through, not in my house. So my house being a Southern Baptist, really South Georgia household, we were lenient compared to other homeschooling houses that we met as I came up through high school, different things. Most homeschoolers know, so it's almost veganism meets schooling, like no candy, no sodas, no sugar, no TV. We don't say shut up in our house. You don't get to have friends, kind of thing.
What you're describing isn't necessarily a problem with homeschooling, but with controlling parents.
But Venn diagram, controlling parents like to homeschool. And then you throw in the Deep South, it gets weird, man. So that's all I'm saying. And I told my wife this stuff. She was the same way as you. Now, she had not experienced a lot of homeschoolers. She came up through the public education system. That's why she's short. And it is just, so I was telling her, so she ends up taking
Where's
when
the
my
Venn
kids
diagram on that?
and she's left-handed. And, God hated her. That's all I'm saying. So she went to this Boy Scout thing. She had some friends that had their kids were in Boy Scouts the same age as my kids, and she did this Boy Scout overnight thing at the aquarium in Atlanta. And she came back, she's like, "Babe, you're not wrong." And she took pictures and was sharing stories of, let's say there's 30 kids. Out of those 30 kids, 26 of them were homeschooled and were exactly what I'm describing. Just had no idea how to function in public. No, none of this stuff. So I was like, look, I understand it's not, I mean, it's funny because stereotypes are funny and stereotypes are based off some truth, but there's obviously I mean, seriously, I was homeschooled my entire life. I get it. Joe, I've met your kids. I was homeschooled my entire life. I get it. So, but there's a stereotype for a reason. And I don't know how you guys let me get on this rant. You're idiots. So let's roll some dice.
you just pick up stuff and run with it.
It's best to just let you run out of gas.
Have I ever run out of gas, Kurt?
We need to give you one of those marathon awards for just side topics that you just pick up and run with.
We need our own wise and nerdy medals to give out every year for side topic running, for weight loss, for bracing coughs. I don't know. What was the dice? I thought you were rolling dice.
I am rolling the dice.
Let Daddy decide.
Yeah, I don't remember what that one is. What is that?
This is going to be, I guess, on you guys because you guys do your own thing. But how do I get started in investing?
Okay. So, Kurt, you and I kind of came at it the same way.
Yeah.
At different times.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I guess we should preface this with a disclaimer that this is not real financial advice.
Right.
It's real and it's financial, but it's not quotey fingers real financial advice.
We are not financial professionals, as it were.
So let me ask you this, Joe. Sell me this pin. No, that's Wolf of Wall Street. Jack, thank you, Kurt. I like the chuckle. I thank you. But Joe, do you have through anywhere? Do you have any investments either active in a stock market or even in an IRA or retirement kind of 401k thing?
Yeah, I've got my 401k through my work that
okay.
Like that's the very first thing. If your work offers any kind of matching, you should be doing that. You should be fully vested in that. So whatever they match, whether 3, 4, 5%, whatever it is, that is the bare minimum that you should be investing. Period, in my opinion.
Yep, 100%.
That's
free money.
Yeah, it's definitely a perk. It is in there. Do you, when you're looking for long-term jobs, do they, for your personal opinions, do they really need to offer an IRA or retirement match at all, or even a program?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I
what if
wouldn't take a full-time position that didn't. I don't think.
What if you got 40% more pay?
Oh, and then I would just have to turn around and invest in myself.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fine, as long as I went into it with that knowledge that yes, it's this much. But you've got to take everything into account, because a lot of places
that's what I was trying to get.
If it is a full-time position and they don't offer some of these other benefits, because that's all part of the cost benefit analysis, is you got to weigh in.
You got to SWAT it. Come on, SWAT it, Joe.
How much do they do for investing? How much do they do for PTO? Because not every PTO summary is the same. Right. You have to take into account how much they cover for your insurance premiums, for health insurance for your family. And so most full-time positions are going to have something along those lines, at least if it's a salary position, I suppose. Not all full-time hourly positions will. But
you gotta, like you said, you had to see the whole picture.
Yes.
Because you do have to consider your industry, your position in life, what the job is. Because I actually had somebody working for me at one point, and they're like, you need to offer, and you gotta understand where you're going to work. We were a startup. Right, we had zero benefits to start with. Then we were able to do a little bit of PTO. Then we were able to do a little bit of this, and we got some insurance. And this person was just ungrateful and like, you really need to do a 401k. And we pay some of the highest rates in the industry for what we do. You go to a 911, which is more prestigious. You go even bigger company, you will get everything you just said, but you'll get a lot less pay in it. And we believe that the culture is different as well. But that's it's hard to sell culture when you're trying to hire somebody. But we do try to be equal. But that my partner's mentality, I was like, I'd rather give you $21 an hour and let you figure out that you need to put it in a 401k instead of giving you $13 an hour and doing it all for you, because you still come out behind in the long run. So, but I agree. Depends on your situation and what you're doing.
And in general, the earlier you start investing, the more time it has to grow through interest. Because ultimately, when you go to retire, the bulk of that is going to be interest that has accrued over time rather than what the principal that you've deposited into the account itself.
Right.
And so start your investing early is huge. It's a huge help So I always think of like the airplane analogy. You want a longer runway to make sure you get off the ground in time. And it's the same way with investing is the longer you have to let that interest grow, the better your liftoff's going to be when you retire.
And and honestly, like particularly if you've got the automatic withdrawal from your paycheck type thing, you set it for whatever. I mean, particularly if you're starting a job, set it for whatever you want because you'll adjust because you have to adjust to the new pay anyway. But then forget it.
Oh yeah,
just completely forget it.
Much like going to patreon.com/wise_in_nerdy. You just set it to that $13 a month Scotch tier level and forget it. And you will get a return on your investment. I promise you. But that pre-tax, that is really, I mean, that's the whole subscription model, right? Yeah. I mean, that's why I made the joke about Patreon, but please go subscribe. Patreon.
And then really, forget it.
Yeah. But you get in there and you set it before your taxes. So you get used to, well, I bring it home X amount of money. Yeah, not obviously not this, but just for money, he's $100 every 2 weeks, $100 every. So you know what you're getting.
Yep.
But they're actually paying you more because it's going into your HRA is another way. It's kind of investing in your health. It's not an investment in your future as far as money like IRAs, but health savings got HSA, that kind of thing. Right. It's pre-tax, so you pay the government less, and you can use it specifically for, like with the IRA, it is retirement. With the HSA, it's for your health each year. But Kurt, so that was a good step. That is a perfect way to start, Joe. I think most people do start that way with the matching company. But Kurt, you work for me, and I'm a butt face that won't pay you a 401k. So what did you do?
Yeah, so what I did just because I wanted to do something. And that is because all these investment apps are out there now. And so, Charles, you and I, obviously we use the same app.
Yeah. We ended up on the same one. Yeah.
But, I use a program called Stash, and there's Robinhood, there's Stash, there's a whole bunch of them. But I just put in like $15 a week, and I use it to play around with what kinds of things am I interested in? Like invest in things that you know a little bit about, and then like everything else, really leave it alone. Just leave it alone. I actually take some of my money and I put it into up and coming companies. Large, big, and wide dips and growth and all that, but leave it alone. And then I also put some money into some of these government funds that are never going to get like really high interest rate returns, but consistent interest rate returns, like really low interest returns, but they always gain with very few exceptions. And it really is just a lot of that. Set it and forget it. Just go. Unless, look, if you invested in Bitcoin and you noticed, oh, wait a minute, it was $20 a coin when I got in, and now it's like $40,000. How about this? Sell. Just get out. It's okay. I'll give you a perfect example for this whole cyber currency stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a cyber currency called Shiba Inu, which was one of those stupid.
Yeah, Joe talked about that. Joe talked about the anime a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. But it's one of those stupid kind of novelty-ish coins, and I bought $50 worth. Okay. Now today it might be worth 10. But you got I have 400,000 or 500,000 coins for that because they're worth hundreds of thousands of a percent of a penny or something like that. I mean, it's just like really. So literally, a buddy of mine I was talking to, I said, if this gets to be worth a penny a share, I'm selling.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, yeah.
right.
So, and to that point, I love random kids throwing on Dogecoin. That was definitely one that did that.
Yep.
Of course, you say just invest in whatever Nancy Pelosi is investing in, you'll be fine. And there are some sites they come and go because people keep trying to shut them down, but they're legal. But they just watch what politicians invest in, and you can legally mimic that. You can do the same thing to whatever level. But what we're all saying mostly is my rate's different than Kurt's. Mine was $5 a week is all I put in. I ended up with Stash. I went to Robinhood. We're going to talk about the differences here in a second about Stash and Robinhood. But it is do what you can and what's safe. You know, Joe knows what he needs to take home. And so if he gets to a point where he gets a raise, he may consider to put most of that raise into that investing in the future in his retirement versus what he does at home. You know, we all face that sometimes. Stash is so easy because you can set it to so much a week, so much a month. You can just be safe. And I've only sold 2 stocks. One of them was Bethesda because I didn't like how they were doing certain things with the Taiwan scandal, the gaming scandal, and all that that was out there. So I ended up just selling that off because I didn't want it. And the other one was X now, Twitter, because I was listening to Data Tech News Show, and when it became apparent that it's possible it's going to become real, I just started buying. I bought about $50 in shares, ended up making about $150 on it. As a force, once he bought it, it was a forced buyout. So I technically didn't voluntarily sell it. The company bought the stocks back.
Yeah.
But I saw it coming, so I was my short. I just shorted it a little bit.
Yeah.
On that because we knew. So Stash is easy. It's a hedge fund. So I own lots of percentages of stock in NVIDIA. I might actually have one whole stock or something, but it's I've just been buying tiny pieces of it because I started investing during COVID, and I knew with the Bitcoin and everything else going on, and that the people were home and everybody wanted to become a streamer. What Kurt said, invest in things you know. And I am very plugged into the digital world, and when I started seeing that uptick in people at home doing Zoom meetings with nicer cameras and lights, they have to have a video card. So I put in a lot of money, well, a lot being at relative, like $70 ultimately into it. It is returned $1,000 on that. Now I'm still holding it because it's still they just keep, man, they announced some stuff about AI. It got me excited, but that's a piece, right? I might have one stock now as a whole. Delta own 4 stocks, different little things. You have your reasons. Here's another example. I invested heavily in Delta during COVID because I thought if they go down, they are the kings of the air. If they go down, we have a much bigger problem. I'm not going to miss this $20, $30, $40 that I'm putting in. So inevitably they have to be coming back somehow, some way. And ultimately it's done okay for me. So that's Stash. Robinhood, I started playing with. Now, Robinhood is more of a direct, you can still buy on your level, but it's a more direct investment in the stock market, like you would see maybe on TV with a broker and those kind of things, where you're saying, I want to buy the stock, and they go and they buy it for you. And if blah, 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 and you play the market. And random kid said, they had that huge scandal where they blocked people from buying meme stocks because that definitely became a thing. As people started playing Robinhood like it's a video game, and go look up the GameStop stock thing that happened with Robinhood, and it was crazy because it's now I'm starting to dance into terms that are legal that I don't know what I'm talking about, but it felt like the way it's played through Robinhood is not as regulated as saying, hey, I need to call in an investment house and have my broker buy 5 shares of GameStop. It's not the same thing. So be wary. And here's why I got out of Robinhood, because of the person who told me about it. They were just all up on it. And they were talking about that Dogecoin and kind of the same thing, Kurt, is before it landed. And Bezos, I think Bezos has said, oh, you're Amazon, we're going to take Dogecoin, we're going to back it. And it spiked for a day. And he's like, yeah. And it's the same thing. He's like, I'm buying it for pennies on the dollar. And if it gets to like 5 cents, I'll have it. And they
manipulate public interest so that they can short it.
Yeah. But I listen to him and I'm thinking, I don't want him as my employee. Like there's reasons. I'm not going into all the stories, but the ultimate thing is I don't want him as my employee. I don't trust him on the truck. And if I don't trust him with a human life, why would I invest with an app that he is in love with? That's all I really know about. It's what he has told me. So I sold all of whatever I got. I think I broke even more or less. I was only in it a month and a half, but I got out of it because I just didn't. And also be comfortable, right, guys? Be comfortable. If you're worrying about it all the time, if you're going, am I doing the right thing? You're not. And that's how I was with Robinhood. I was Stash, super comfortable. It was just an advanced savings account almost that has a video game aspect where I can try to play my knowledge and see if my savings goes up or down, because it's not quick like the stock market either. It's you got to take your steps. What's up, Joe?
I was just going to say, for the most part, stocks are going to go up and down, and hopefully if you're picking them right, the general trend will be up, but it's the time in it that really matters. Like there was a huge dip a year or two back where mine went down by tens of thousands of dollars, the overall value, but it bounced back. The stock market bounced back. So you just got to let it ride most of the time.
Kurt, don't you just love how he subtly works in that 1%er aspect in almost every show that we do?
Yep.
My savings account sucks,
down
but
tens of thousands of dollars. But it's really like 0.5% from what I'm investing in. Don't worry about it.
I am just letting it sit there. It's not like I'm going to be touching it. It's not money that I have access to, but I am very happy it's there for when I want to retire.
Compare the story
in 30 years.
Compare the story of me and Kurt, where we invested pennies. we were scraping together the things. We gave that scrap of bread to our kid, and we put a penny in Stash, and we both did the dip, and because we talked to each other through that time, and we had different reactions. His went up a little bit when mine went down. So, but I went from, everything I'd gotten was kind of a steady climb, and so Stash will show you your total and what's grown, so you can actually infer. You can go see it later on your dashboard. You see what you have right now. And I'm definitely making more in returns, dividend, but I'm not selling, so I'm not getting it. But I'm getting more in returns than I've invested. That's where you want to be. But I got up to like $1,500, $1,600 in returns, and it has that little marker. It's like, oh, you're almost at this high point, whatever.
Right.
And then that dip hit, Joe, and I was at like $2,000. I didn't lose tens of thousands of dollars like you, okay? But it got down to triple digits, like less than $700 at one point. I'm like, man, it's killing. But I did leave it alone. I left it alone, just like you're talking about. And Kurt's didn't quite go that low. I think his went up a little bit, and we
but I mean, I definitely hit a dip, but it's been growing consistently over the last 6 to 8 months or so. Anyway. And Joe's sitting there going, yeah, my savings account took it. I've only got $25,000 left in my savings.
One of my savings. The other 10 are fine.
No. So I regardless of what my 401k has, my actual savings is rather pitiful. So my checking and savings account is not so great.
Now, Kurt, what about do you use your retirement portfolio and Stash?
I don't, because I have an IRA through my company.
There you go. Yeah, I don't have anything else. So I thought at some point, so I was putting in roughly $20 a month for the stock market side of it, and I said, well, I'll throw in another 20 a month for the retirement side, and I picked. For the retirement side, because I'm playing the stocks on the stock side, I picked slow, steady growth, essentially portfolio, and that's it. I said I want to go simple portfolio. It said high risk, high growth, medium, blah blah, and I went medium to high. I'm a little bit of a risk taker because I understand that the world's going to change a lot in the next 20, 30, 40 years. So, but I don't want to go crazy. That's my safety net more or less, because I'll go, I'll play the other side. So. Not huge, definitely nothing like my stock portfolio, but it's comforting to go, okay, there's some money. And to the point of getting it before taxes. In this case, you can't, but if you can set up automatic things, like I called it a secret squirrel account. I don't know how many years ago now. It's an account that Aaron and I had long before we had kids. Like when online banking became a thing, we got into, I don't remember what it's called now because Capital One owns it now, but it was this independent. And we're like, man, it's going to give us 5 or 6% return on our checking account. Yeah, we'll bank online. We're young and crazy. We'll do that. And it worked for us. And then ultimately the housing market, blah, 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 stuff got bought out and it doesn't return what it did. So I'm like, I still have it. I still like it. What am I going to do with it? I just start putting, I think $20 a month in that as well as just, I'll take Aaron to Europe one day. And like last year I turned around like, hey, babe, I never told her about it. So I was like, hey, you serious about wanting to go to Paris? Like, oh, that'd be nice one day. I was like, how about we get your passport? And I showed her the account. Like, I've got enough to fly me and you to Paris for a couple of days and come back. So, it's just, I never missed it. It was just always coming out of my check. It's gone. Right. Don't worry about it. Not pre-tax. I had to set that up myself, but still.
Yeah.
But that's a good beginning. And let me ask you guys this. Kurt, you can tell us what you did do with the adult kids. I've got the teenagers, and we're doing some basic money management for them, like teaching them, hey, give it like an accountant. We're going to put it in your savings. We'll put it there. We'll put it there. You can see everything. And we're just teaching you to just we're getting them hooked on savings and like drugs, right? For them when they leave there, they'll do it themselves. But what about, I've been toying with this idea because I felt this is a statement a friend of mine made as an adult. Yeah. People told me about compound interest and investing early, and I kind of got it, but nobody my parents, whatever, they didn't make me do it. Mm-hmm. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, I'm in a unique position where I can make my kid, I'm not asking, I'm not telling them, but I can make my kid $10 a month, just pop it away in a compound interest thing and see what happens. What do you guys think about that? Like really going, okay, here's one step further. We're going to make you do this now so you see it.
I would show them an amortized spreadsheet and show them the difference between.
You said it mammogrammatized, and nobody's gonna give a crap about that, Joe.
So if you can look up spreadsheets that will simulate a certain percentage of interest, and you can show, you can plug in these calculators, say, okay, here's how much I'm going to put in a month or whatever, the principal, and you can show them, like, if you start now versus 10 years from now, how huge of a difference that is when you go to retire. And that's what I would show them. Just show them the hard numbers, and most people will react to that.
Yeah, but the other thing to understand is the younger folks believe that 30 is old.
There's that a little bit.
No, because so they can't see that far in the future, right? It's not.
Okay,
it's
that's
not,
how I was. It was.
It's not.
I'll get to it.
So So for me, I'm with you though, Joe. I mean, because really seeing those compound interest amortization tables, those are really eye opening. But you go, I don't know if I'm going to live that long. Like, why? It's at that age. And
that's why I think putting their money into a real account like that is going to, then they see the real return. They'll forget about it because that's what we've trained to do. Hey, my son had to do some major work on his car to get it past emissions, and he went to his mom and was like, hey, what do we have in the account? Because he had learned to live off of whatever past payday, whatever is still in the account, is his to spend. And so he knew he had that safety net. And that's kind of step I'm looking at taking is like, well, now it's money you can't touch for 5 years, but in 5 years, you'll see it without a mammogram thing.
So with my kids, both of them, when they started getting a full-time job where they had benefits, I said, if your company offers you a 401k and they do any matching, at least invest that much and then forget it. It's coming out of your paycheck pre-tax. You're not even going to notice that it's there or that it's missing. Just forget it. And I don't think either one of them tapped into it. I have no idea what they've got. Doesn't matter.
Sure.
Roll that dice.
It's personal story time.
All right. Let's see. You know what's funny is a few of us this calendar year, we've all rotated different nights, I think, more or less, to be out. Maybe not Joe yet, but we've missed, and we've had some amazing people on. And we have this great schedule now, so we can see it coming up. So I knew Joe might be out next week, so on and so forth. And I got an ugly text this week, not from who I thought, but maybe Kurt, but from another supposed person who says they listen. Is like, how dare you?
Is this you?
No.
Did you text yourself?
Yeah. And it was like, how dare you have Sean Weiland on before me? And I went, new life, who's this? It was Phil. Phil's so pissed that Sean came up before him.
I gotta tell you, I was a little offended that Sean was sitting in for me.
I know. That was just a side benefit. I really did it to piss Phil off. Actually, no, to be honest, I did it because I was on Discord. You know me, I'm a squirrel. I'm on Discord. We just finished the show, and I saw that you were coming up. We need to find replacements. And his name was just right there. I went, I haven't talked to him in a while. No, he's of dad. Let's talk to that. And then later I'm like, oh yeah, Kurt might not gotten to that too well, but I think Kurt will understand. It was not intentional. Well, it was intentional to have him, but not intentional to.
It's fine. Yeah. He was just a surprise. I was not expecting that you were going to have him on.
Surprised everybody.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to challenge myself to get out of my circle as well. But I did throw out the date to Phil tonight for next week. So Kurt, Phil may be on. Okay. He may not. And Joe has been popped, which we still haven't got to the. So we'll definitely get that on the Patreon part afterwards because it wasn't recorded beforehand, but we'll talk about that. Go pop yourself, I think is what Joe wanted to title that story. But finding perspective. So as everybody here knows, I run a company. I run a couple companies. I'm always reaching out. I'm always doing bigger things, changing things up. Mostly love digital media, talking in front of people. This is less of a story. It's a little story to get you started. But I gotta ask, why, as dads, why as human beings, do we hit this wall of perspective to where it may be something we should have seen coming? That if you were telling me your problem, boom, I'd see it a mile away and go, hey, you need to watch out for this, or vice versa. I'm telling you my problem, but that forced perspective. And in this case, we've really gotten sharp on income and outflow. I've been working with my household finances for 20 something years with my wife, and so I've been in other business. So the basics of you got to bring in more money, you spend this and that and the other. And yet we hit a moment that, are you guys both paid bi-weekly, which would be every 2 weeks?
I'm paid weekly. Okay,
this won't hit you at all. You get 52 paychecks a year. End of story.
Right.
Joe, how many paychecks a year do you get?
26.
So, random kid. Yes, you need to remember who I am. Don't you know who I am, random kid? So he was picking at me, reminding people of that. So yeah, 26. Which whatever math you do doesn't matter. You'll end up with 1 to 3 months, depending on the cycle and how it falls, of 3 paychecks in 1 month. But we usually bill and process everything as a 2 paycheck month. Well, the vice versa is true for a company. We know an extra check is coming up, and up until this point, we've done well enough. Everything has been working, whatever has happened. I've not always been privy to all the information, like not seeing the direct bank accounts. If something maybe got a little sideways, my partner would handle it. He's owner, partner, whatever you want to call it. He's the money man. I'm the operations guy. We work hand in hand. He would just move some stuff around, cover whatever, because we're always moving in a positive direction. But as of yesterday, we were in a fairly bad spot. And if we had been like a solo company, as an out and out, we might could have gone, we would have had to, and hopefully could have gone to banks and say, hey, we just emptied our accounts paying payroll. We're going to need a loan to get through the next couple of months, which is business. That happens. I'm not proud of it. It's not everywhere I want to be, but I do understand it's not the end of the world. Companies do that constantly because companies, just like the stock market, just like everything, you got your ups and your downs, and it affects companies a little bit more than it affects people. I'm running a company is the new friend of the show. Oh, good one. So But yeah, we hit a 3 paycheck month, and we had been making a lot of good progress, changing things, but we weren't changing things fast enough. And to summarize how I can do the business is I could tell you to be profitable in 12 hours, we need to run 8 to 10 trips on any given ambulance to have it be profitable that day. We really can do 6 to 8, but you do 8 to 10, you know you're good. That's how simple we can make it. And we knew that was our target, but we're looking at bigger numbers. We're looking at formulas. We're looking at other things that, okay, we're doing okay. Yeah, there's a little bit of a loss here, but also some of these numbers are theoretical. Like literally we have, it depends on the base, but we have $4,000 budgeted for miscellaneous, like things we just didn't see coming. Well, that's kind of pretend money, right? We have, I don't know how many thousands of dollars built in each month for growth and reinvestment. Well, that is needed, but that's also kind of pretend, right? If you're having a bad time, you're not worried about growth and reinvestment. You're worried about survival. These are some theoretical numbers, but some real. So it muddied my waters. Because my wife asked me today, it's like, why did this third paycheck just blindside you? I even said it was coming. I was like, yeah, but I've never had to process it. Neither has my team. So we were working with these theoretical numbers, and then when the real numbers hit, it was like, oh crap. And then yesterday was a bad day. That's where the numbers hit. And I was in Clearwater, Florida, one of the most beautiful places to be. I hate the beach. Like I do not like the beach. I like going to this conference because my people like the beach, and I can sit on a balcony and talk to them when they're in the sand, and I'm not. But it's fun time. And I ended up leaving last night at like 6. I was supposed to leave this morning. I left last night, drove home to 8 hours because I knew I wasn't going to sleep. And I didn't sleep much. But then when I did sleep a little bit, got up, and me and the team just hit the ground running. And it changed our perspective to focus solely on getting that number of patients per truck. And that's our business model. Like we have to have a business model that compares to what's a good employee to hire, what's a good patient to take on, what's a good clinic to work with, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of the long short of it is, why do you think, I mean, if I told you that story months ago, like, guys, I'm struggling, you would have seen it coming my way. It's like, hey, well, maybe if you stop losing $5,000 this month on this truck and maybe cut some things and don't worry about feelings. Why do we have that imbalance of being able to see other people's problems and not quite see what we should have seen coming, like 3 paychecks?
Tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're too close to it. And you're in my boss hates this term because he doesn't see things this way. But when you're in the thick of it, in the heat of the moment, you don't always have the right perspective. You are so nose to the grindstone trying to get this current problem solved that you're not thinking outside of that problem, at least in the immediate. Because literally, like when you were speaking about this whole thing, I'm going, oh yeah, of course, go to the bank. You go to the bank and you arrange for a line of credit. Just because it's a cash flow problem, it's not an income problem.
And I didn't go into all the details. There is a bit of but
that's kind of normal for small companies.
Yeah,
small companies run into cash flow problems, and it's not necessarily an accounts receivable problem. It's the cash that people owe us isn't coming in fast enough, but we're good for it because we have the receivables. So often, I mean, not always. Sometimes companies just stink and they're going to go out of business. I don't anticipate that's your company. Unless you continue to forget that there are 3 Fridays in a month sometime.
No, I already know which month this year is coming again, as does my team. We have that tattooed on our forehead proverbially.
And honestly, even getting paid weekly, some months have 5 Fridays.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
when you're budgeting on 4, like, man.
Yeah.
I think in any company, payroll is the biggest beast. And we were managing 2 payrolls just fine, but we didn't have a big enough margin. And so we tackled it. We went well with it.
And that's why some companies, instead of doing, the Friday paycheck, they do like the 15th and the 30th or something like that, right. or the 14th and the 28th.
Controlled. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you only have to worry about the 2 paychecks.
I think
the money fluctuates a little bit, but it's easier probably to calculate those fluctuations than a whole nother payroll.
Yep. And I think I've been paid in just about every way that you can be paid from a salaried paycheck. I've been paid weekly, bi-weekly, weekly, bi-weekly. 15th and the 30th, and monthly. Which
See, I don't know if I know you know what I do. I haven't paid monthly. I haven't paid monthly before.
it's
I don't
rough.
like it.
It's rough
okay.
to start. Like it's really rough to start. But like with everything else, you adjust.
Did he wants to know? Random kid wants to know if on the cruise you got $1 bills in your Speedo.
Oh, like $5.
They were $100 bills.
Yeah. Look, have you seen this TikTok fit guy?
Do you know who he is?
5,235.
Right. Do you know who I am?
Roll that dice.
All right. So while he's rolling, we absolutely have multiple companies that the owner owns and we work with. So we were fine. We just have to course correct hard.
Yeah.
Time for a commercial break.
Oh yeah. Snap it to a commercial because I have some new music, boys.
Okay,
Some
Randy
new music.
Savage.
Yeah, you got it right. Good for you.
Do you like sponge cake filled with creamy filling?
Head over to patreon.com/wise_and_nerdy.
At the $15 a month level, we will send you a Twinkie once every quarter.
Is it homemade? Don't answer that. Now, we do say the tagline, we may not be your fathers, we will always be your daddies. So there could be a whole different side to that tier, is all I'm saying, the Twinkie tier, as a random kid.
And at the $20 a month, Charles will visit your house in a Twinkie the Kid costume.
Twinkie the Kid! I forgot that, dude. Oh, my goodness. Call your dad. We got some we definitely have some jokes to play tonight from the Speak Pipes. And look, I put the poll out on Patreon. So if you do go to patreon.com/wise_and_nerdy, you will have there's a public post there for anybody, and it talks about how we are considering doing an actual council of dads and how you can be a part of that council. And what we're going to offer in that section is specialized topics and hosts to come in and answer questions. Some of it be stuff we would do, like Kurt. We can do an actual live cooking class where you're going to do some prepared meats and walk us through how to smoke it, and we're doing it with you, like remotely. We can do stuff like that. We're gonna have people come in like that could talk about drug and crisis rehabilitation and recognizing the signs in your loved ones, and they were interventionalists and whatnot. So you can Q&A there. We hope to, as we've gone and done before, we hope to reach out to people that we enjoy talking to, that create some of our cool stuff that we watch, like Solo Leveling and whatnot, and maybe get some anime creators or some voice actors on to just interview them. And it's all going to be exclusive to this Council of Dads, right? We can do game nights and stuff, but it's a place for dads to belong and share advice and talk to each other. The poll is there on Patreon, and it's like we're thinking about doing this. We're thinking about doing it somewhere in the range of $150 to $300 a year, that you'd be a member of that. And we just want to know, do you think it sounds like something you belong to? It's just a yes or no. There's no commitment there. So go put that up there again, Joe. It's patreon.com/wise_and_nerdy there. And we're just seeing if people want to be a part of the council and have that connection. Go ahead.
Right. We'll even talk you through a blind date through a hidden earpiece. We'll Cyrano de Bergerac you.
See, I know the reference, and I know where that comes from. I thought you were to go with Practical Jokers on that one.
Oh God! Well, that kind of is the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. We get catfish, though. We really think we're walking like a 20-year-old guy who's a innocent kid needing help, and it's really a 40-year-old trying to pick up an 18-year-old. So no,
like Steve
refund. All right.
Oh,
Where are we at, Joe? Roll it up.
what are you nerding out about now?
Well, you nerds got in here before I did and put a lot of things. So we're starting with solo leveling. Now let's play a game, Kurt. Let's play. We carried it on. You invented a great game here on this show. It is guess what the anime is about from the title. All right, Kurt.
Yep.
So we played it even with we had Steven Adams on H&H Steven, last week. And we played it with him. Yeah. But we played the game and it was fun. So here's the game, Kurt.
Yeah.
Whether you've seen it or not, whatever.
And I haven't.
Okay. So the title of this anime is called Solo Leveling.
Yep.
What's it about?
Okay. So if Sword Art Online taught me anything, it's that this dude gets sucked into a video game which becomes his reality, and he has to make it through the level by himself without any help, or be condemned to Hades. I'm trying to be respectful, Joe.
Yeah.
For all of eternity, or until Pikachu rescues him.
And honestly, you're very close, and it's even better. But here we got this from random kid: Council of Dads or Daddy Daycare.
Daddy Daycare, terrible movie. All right,
but it's not how he meant it, though. Drop the dads off for
daycare,
but no, it is a better. So this guy. But here's the better part: it's a world set more or less in the modern day society, right? But these portals started opening up. These rifts started happening, and when that happened, this D&D kind of stuff started happening. Like there's goblins in one, there's this, so they call them dungeons. They understand these are dungeons, and there's awakenings in human beings to get power. So then they got rank. So it became almost this real life D&D thing. They're hunters, right. And then the main character that we're following does these things, and something happens, and we still don't fully understand, even at the end of the first season. And so while everybody is working on things almost game like, he is almost in a video game. He's the only one that sees these video game level type notifications, and he is leveling up as a character almost, but it's still a real world setting. It is. Joe, we were talking about this. I called you on the way to the Florida when you said you thought we could talk about on the show with minimal spoilers. It is way better than it deserves, Kurt. It is. It is so good. I mean, and the reason I say it that way is, one, how I approach any media is I'm behind the times, right? And even like Demon Slayer, it was 3-4 seasons in before I got on board,
right?
And because that's how I'm introduced to those things, I can assume every anime that I find interesting has been out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting tired of this trend of me jumping on the new stuff because one, there's only one season, it's brand new. But I also expect a certain level of Demon Slayer-ishness, right? We talked about that, the tropes, the screaming and the funny.
There's none of that in Solo Leveling.
This thing is right up there with like Game of Thrones and not darkness like that, but that it grabs you. And
but it is brutal. So it is not.
Yeah, there's definitely some violence to it.
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me. So I mean, I've got it queued up. I just based on the Discord, which you can join anytime you would like. Just check the show notes. So it looked like everybody was kind of on board with it, so I'm going to give it a shot. It's literally queued up in a tab right now.
So I brought it up a few weeks ago where I'd found the game first, and it lost me a little bit because I thought I was going to do. Well, I realize now I thought I was going to be that bottom level character and figure it out. No, you're playing through the show, and it's amazing. And it wasn't Civilian on Base; it was one of our other regulars, maybe that was into the game as well and thinks it's amazing. And I'd say watch the show. It's really good.
It was Civilian, by the way.
It was Civilian, okay. Then download the game, because you're playing. When I say you're playing through the episodes, they are putting up the actual. I mean, it's rendered so well. Some of the actual scenes from the anime, and then you're getting to play some of the battles that didn't play out on the show.
Okay.
And you're getting to kind of get involved that way. And then, of course, like any other mobile game, they have, you can go on just this random task, that random task. And yeah, it's very interesting. So Joe, I got to gush about it, but you finished it right before I did, a few weeks before I did, I think.
No, I've watched it through 3 times.
So yeah, a few weeks before I did. That's what I said, Joe.
And after you and I talked on the phone, I rewatched it again over the last few days. So, yeah, no, it is very, very good. The people making it said they have it planned out for 6 seasons. I don't know if it's actually been renewed for 6 seasons, but it has confirmed that season 2 is going to come out before the end of the year. So, yeah, good stuff. Very good stuff. And yeah, it's amazing. It really is. And I linked in, the Discord, one of the songs from one of the middle episodes, and man, it is such a good song. Let's see, so that people can Google it if they're interested in it. What was it? It was like Dark Aria version 2 or something. Dark Aria V2. Yeah. Dark Aria level 2. LV2. So good. Good song.
I'm not even as frustrated as I should be about the fact that we went through a whole season and we have no answers. Like, we don't know why the first thing that happened affected everything else. We don't know. They start hinting at this thing called a reawakening, but they don't explain it. They don't. There's there's not very much exposition here. I mean, we understand what it is, but Kurt, you go into probably even demons. I can't think of an exact scene, but young kid, here's the history of the world while you're eating your noodles. It's all this exposition. You don't get that. You get just enough.
Yeah, they give a little bit here and there, but yeah.
But we don't know why the opening and closing island things and it was going on.
Yeah. It doesn't explain.
It's this bigger world. It's so good. Yeah. And how many seasons of the comic are out there?
So there's over 200 chapters for the comic. I don't know how many chapters they ended up using for season 1. But like I said, they have it plotted out to use the 200 chapters for 6 seasons. So if they keep it at 12 episodes each, 6 seasons is 72 episodes, which is that's a decent amount for an anime. Like, for instance, one of the what's considered one of the best animes ever is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and it has 64 episodes. So 72 is a pretty good length for one that's not a ginormous, never-ending one like One Piece.
One Piece. I'm about to say it's not One Piece with 2,000 episodes or whatever it is. But good. So, okay, here's the next one for you to work on, Kurt. What is this anime about? Paniculectomy.
I can tell you that. And just before I jump into that, the reason I didn't start solo leveling this week is because I watched The Acolyte on Disney Plus.
Is it any good?
It's pretty good. So it's the new Star Wars series.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes place before any of the movies. Like way before. And so I don't know any of the characters, and it's wonderful to not know any of the characters. It's wonderful to not hear the name Skywalker. Or anybody else I recognized. It was fun. I liked it a lot. So, all right, paniculectomy. So before I went on my vacation, I went and got my physical with my primary care physician. And
how dare you cheat on your wife?
I know. And all my numbers are good, but one of my goals to talk with him about is getting a paniculectomy, which is loose skin surgery.
Oh, I thought that's where you got rid of the peninsula.
Nope, that's a completely different
thing. Kind of. If you look at how much loose skin, it's kind of
we kind of call that Florida wangectomy. I know, borderline. So my doctor said, okay, that makes sense. How much weight have you lost? And he, he knew, but he didn't know, like, because he's been monitoring. But
Go on.
I said, I'm down about 155 pounds.
Yes, you are.
And then I showed him the front flap of skin from my stomach. Now, kids, if you lose a lot of weight, you're gonna have loose skin. It's just a thing. And one of the downsides is that with all that extra skin, I can't buy clothes that properly fit, particularly pants. So,
what a weird thought to you.
So,
is it enough loose skin to get a scrunchie and tie it up in a little skin ponytail?
No.
One of those 60s, you gotta have a corset. He needs a corset.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So my doctor, I said to my doctor, here's my concern, that if my insurance company won't cover it, I can't do it. Like, I know roughly what these things cost, and there's no way I'd be able to afford it. And then my doctor, who is awesome, started asking me questions.
Okay. Okay. Let's pause
pre-authorization questions, I assume.
Yes.
But how many doctors don't ever listen or don't ever question and just dismiss you? So that's also a hidden point in what you just said.
Yes.
They're asking you questions. That's amazing.
Yep. And he was asking me questions.
He wasn't homeschooled.
I knew the way he was asking the questions that he was looking for me to answer in a certain way so that he could write certain things on my chart.
You're actually doing a tone of voice right now. It's so good.
And so, one of the questions he asked me was, have you ever had an infection or open sores? Because honestly, now this is a serious note.
Yeah.
One of the things about having the loose skin is the overlap, the flap. It can rub against the other skin that's there and really cause a problem, like chafing,
infecting me bad.
Chafing to infection to it becomes a problem. I said, not currently, but I have, yes. And so he wrote that down. He goes, okay, I'm going to refer you to this plastic surgeon. He specializes in this kind of operation. He's very familiar with the ways of the insurance companies, blah, 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 blah. And I consider myself fortunate because I talk to people every day whose doctors don't give a crap. And and they said, well, we'll put it in for your insurance company and we'll see what they say. Because there's unfortunately a large amount of doctors who, because they've been beaten down, a large amount of doctors who allow the insurance companies to dictate treatment. And that's just because they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. So I have my consultation mid-July.
Awesome, man.
So what I was telling Joe a little bit earlier and what I was kind of hinting at Joe is that the only reason I wouldn't go to Dragon Con is if I can't.
Yep.
So the way you described it, you can easily fly down here, is all I'm saying.
Well, I'd be flying at this point anyway, but
that's not what I meant, but okay.
Yeah. So
good on you, man. Aaron actually saw your video today and asked about it. It's like, you know what? I'm assuming there is skin. I haven't really seen a lot of it. And I imagine when he gets happy with where he is in his journey, he will look at that surgery.
Yeah. I've known about it for a long time, and I've thought about, there were moments where I said, it's just loose skin. It's what I've got. And honestly, if I can't get it authorized, then I'll live with it. And that's okay, because it's better even with it than the old way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's, but I got to the point where I'm going, this is in the way of what I want to accomplish. And so it's a problem. It's now a problem. So so there's that. Now my goal, honestly, is if they approve me and we jump through all the hoops for the insurance company and all that, my intent is to go, if I can schedule it this way, to go in right after Dragon Con.
Got it. Yeah.
That's the reality of it. So
yeah.
but yeah, that's so I've been doing a lot more research on it and videos and blah 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 blah. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah,
That's
very
really
happy.
cool. So what about this anime, X-Men '97? What's that? I think that's you, Joe.
It is me this time. So I finally got around to watching it with my wife. And it very good. Very, very, very good. The worst part about it is that there's not more.
Right.
Because it ends on such a huge cliffhanger. But it one thing I was not expecting was how dark it gets at times. It was a lot darker than I was expecting. And it's so much so that my wife and I were like, I don't know about letting the kids watch this just yet. It's too much for them.
That mid-season.
We need to understand that we need to kill certain characters that Channing Tatum's going to be playing soon. Channing Tatum does not belong in the Marvel universe. Is all I'm saying. All right, so they're not connected. They're not connected.
It went, and like when that happened, literally everybody I know that watched it was like going, "What?
I know, right?
What did they do?"
I believe I texted one or both of you at the end of that episode. It just literally said, well, I'm going to change it a little bit because not to spoil, but are they dead?
Yeah.
That and of course we didn't know because we were watching it week to week. So you got to watch it straight through.
I think they're leading to a comic book storyline.
Yeah, you and I had talked about that.
Yeah, and in the comics, the X-Men have gone into this. Well, Krakoa, which is the mutant island from way early X-Men comics, like just really crazy early. And they took it to the next step and made Krakoa a mutant country onto its own. And then they decided to pool the mutant resources and figure out, hey, if we're left to our own devices and we can do kind of whatever we want in terms of like scientific research and whatnot, what are we able to do? And they got around to resurrection, basically, which somebody dies, their brains get downloaded into this database, basically, and they get cloned. And then they have a fast, because it's comics, they have a fast growth, and they can re-upload the brain and resurrect them for all intents and purposes. I think we're heading in that direction. I don't know.
You're not, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, could be.
Yeah. It's
I mean, we've already got clones.
right.
So
Right. It's so good that they did exactly what I'd hoped they were going to do, and that is use today's writing sensibilities with the aesthetic from the 90s. And even that, they updated the look for some of the characters because it looked too 90s. Right. So,
well, I disagree with what they did with Rogue, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
There's been a lot of criticism over the changes of Rogue's physique.
Yep. There's going to be criticism. Part of the whole thing is there were haters on the whole series from the beginning because it was happening, like for no other reason, but it was happening. So there are going to be that there are going to be those kinds of things, but I don't know. I think the good far outweighs the bad.
I agree. I like what they did with Magnus. How much they changed him. They did change the artwork on him a little bit as well, but I thought it went. But the story arc. I mean, you could argue this whole season was his story.
Oh yeah,
and it was good. So Joe, final take, roughly. You and your wife. Loved it. It was okay. Obviously, you didn't hate it, but
yeah, no, it was very good. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. So, yeah. All I know is that the aliens they did a certain character dirty by not letting him keep some gear.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It reminded me of a Return to the Wizard of Oz and Tinbot, whatever that little round robot was. So okay, all right. So I've learned something about myself in anime. I'm more in Kurt's camp than Joe's camp.
Oh.
Joe bring up these titles of Bluebird, Yellow Wall, Sunshine, and it's about robots attacking demons. Like, that makes no sense. I have found that I love anime so far that their title tells you what it is. Demon Slayer. He slays demons the whole time. I mean, that's what Demon Slayer is. Solo leveling. And pretty much hits it on the head. This is one, Joe, you recommended to me. I hate you because it was one season. And this one got me even more in solo leveling because I was traveling. So I really binge watched the crap out of it this week. And that's Darwin's Game.
Oh,
Kurt,
yeah.
what is Darwin's Game about? If I tell you,
it's a good one.
Asian based, it's violent, and it's called Darwin's Game.
It's very violent.
What's it about?
Darwin's Game is about 36 really stupid people being brought together to compete in games in a gym filled with hazards.
Now you're not even trying anymore, but you're kind of close.
What do you mean?
I don't know
I'm not
about
even trying.
So,
And it becomes survival of the fittest.
it is absolutely one of those. It's not not the gym stuff, not the coming together. It's
I went Darwin Awards. That's where I went.
Right, yeah. It's an app that affects the real world, and it is very so it is very much that survival game, Squid Game. I was watching another one out of Korea, Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Borderland.
Thank you.
Oh,
Alice
right.
in Borderland. It's very much like that, except as if you watch Alice in Borderland, they're almost wholly psychologically living in this virtual world of Borderland. Whereas in Darwin's Game, it's still in the real world, but they don't see dead bodies. I thought that was a cool take. You never see a dead body in the real world. You see it in the Darwin's Game, but in the real world, it's just these digitized squares of what would be an outline of a body, and they just think it's weird artwork. There's some way that the app controls regular humans, people who aren't players, that like send them home. So then there can be big events in the city of killing with nobody seeing it. It's a little wavy, handy, but it's really good too.
It was a
For
Black
that-
Mirror episode where people had like they put like either contacts or special implants in their kids' eyes to help shield them from violent footage and whatnot.
Yes.
And so kids would be walking down the sidewalk, and if they saw something that was past the censorship level that their parents set, it would just pixelate or blur.
Yeah. It again, it's another one that doesn't really give you answers, but it was good. I loved it. I got to the point where I went to watch it last night and there were no more. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, I know what the episode was about. I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense, but where's my season 2, 3, and 4, man? Why am I watching stuff that's current, Joe?
My bad.
But, the Darwin's Game was very fun.
Yeah, I'll have to look and see if that has been renewed for a second season. So with anime, sometimes it can be several years before it actually gets picked up for another season, which is sad sometimes. A lot of times it doesn't get picked up for another season. Like, there was one that I watched where they had one season and then they told the fans if their mobile game reached a certain threshold that they would make a season 2, and it didn't reach that threshold. So
good. Don't hold me hostage.
No season 2, but yeah.
So I'm definitely looking for a few more. I'm considering getting a Crunchyroll subscription because I'm using the free one. Got to watch Solo Leveling for free all the way through, dubbed, which is important to me. I like subs, but I need it dubbed because I'm usually doing something else, so I don't want to have to pay attention as much.
Right.
And I was watching a few more on the adult side. Not adult. It's not like hentai, but it's more than violence in there a little bit. And it's like, okay, we got 4 episodes in. Now it's subbed unless you want to pay. Like, I don't know. I need it to be something like Solo Leveling or Demon Slayer, where it's locked behind the paywall. Okay, now I will, buy. I don't know,
Charles. You disappointed me, man.
Oh yeah.
Well, you kind of bypassed it, but you said like that robot guy from Return to Oz.
Yes, 10 heart, 10 bot, 10
His
something.
name is TikTok.
Oh no! But you had to look it up. You didn't know. I know you're.
No, I did look it up. I did look it up because I went, isn't it like? I literally thought, isn't it like TikTok? And I go, that doesn't sound right because TikTok, right? And I looked it up. Yeah, it's TikTok, and it's actually spelled the same way.
So I do, Random Kid. I watched Full Metal. So Random Kid says I need to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I watched Full Metal Alchemist, the movie, and then I went back and watched the.
Oh, just the movie?
No, I'm pretty sure I went back and watched the anime after the movie. I did. I did.
Well, that's the wrong order.
Well, again, it was hand wavy at the time. Oh, this looks cool on Netflix. I've heard the name Full Metal Alchemist. I'll try it. It was good enough for me to go, oh, I like that enough. It was okay, but let me go see what it's all about. And I did watch. I remember I did watch the. But I've not watched Brotherhood yet, so I need to watch.
Brotherhood. Yeah. So Brotherhood is very. I mean, both of them are very good, but we've talked about this in the past where the first series, Full Metal Alchemist, they caught up with the source material and then did their own thing, whereas Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, that was made years later after the source material had finished, and so it follows the source material much closer. Both I enjoyed both of them, and I actually watched both of them with my wife, and both are very, very good. I will admit that Full Metal Alchemist, the first one, it does get kind of wonky at the end, but both good. And if you do watch Full Metal Alchemist, the older one, make sure you watch the movie that comes after the seasons, because it has a much more satisfying ending than the anime itself.
Gotcha.
So
we're gonna get into bad dad jokes here in a second, but I am gonna put this bounty out because I searched Crunchyroll, and maybe because I'm not paying for it, I would think it'd show me even if I wasn't paying for it that I'd have to pay for it. But I know that the TV show Supernatural, which huge fan of, I understand that's about as cheese gets, and that's where my level is at. Is I don't like other cheesy, crappy shows, but Supernatural, the monsters, the stories, it got me. I liked it. They did an anime. I don't know if it was 1 season, 2 seasons. I remember back in the pirate days of the high seas, I remember finding it and downloading it, and I wasn't ready. It was very anime with the angles of the face and very anime style of writing, but it's the actual actors voicing the characters. Another thing that got me at the same time was it wasn't canon. It didn't really play into the show, which I thought was a huge mistake. But with the bounties, I'd love for somebody to find a place for me to get the Supernatural anime, just so now that I'm more accustomed to anime and different styles of anime, enjoying different styles, I'd like to go back and try that again. Apparently
you can buy it. There's nowhere that streams it, but you can buy it on Amazon or Apple TV.
All right, I might do one episode to see. That'd be a good testing the waters to see. Then if I liked it, I could buy the season. All right, let's do this. Let's rip the Band-Aid. I know we have a few speak pipes that are bad dad jokes. I know that Kurt has been holding some for a couple of weeks now. Joe's got to load up because he's going to camp. And, everybody knows that kids who are old enough to go camping with their dads never want to hear bad dad jokes. So go ahead and get it out of your system.
You're ready for the
Waka Waka bad dad jokes.
All right. Did you want to go first, Kurt, or do you want me to play some from Devo site?
You should just go ahead because I have nothing planned.
All right.
What did Kurt say when he got a comb for his birthday? Thanks. I'll never part with this.
Attaboy.
True, but also painful.
Attaboy.
All right, we got 4 more. How many of these do you want me to play?
All of them.
All of them. Okay.
What did the backpack say to the hat? You go ahead, and I'll go on back.
No, Devo.
Delicious.
Y'all
How
just
do you close an envelope while underwater? With a seal.
stupid.
That's
That's about
Oh, all right. We got two more. Here we go.
A monkey walked into a store and said to the clerk, "Give me a soda." The clerk said, "We don't serve monkeys, now scram." The monkey came back the next day and said, "Give me a soda." The clerk said, "We don't serve monkeys, and if you come back, I'll nail your tail to the floor." The next day, the monkey came into the store again and asked, "Got any nails?" The clerk said, "No." "Good," the monkey said. "Then give me a soda."
all right. I like that one. That's a kind of
But-
smart ass remark in there.
So I've heard that joke, but it's
That's
not
it.
a monkey, it's a duck.
Asking for grapes.
Yes.
No, I heard the monkey one. I've heard the monkey version, not the duck version.
Duck walks up to
But
the lemonade stand.
okay. I like that one because you got any nails? It's clever. It's funny.
All right. We got one more.
A drunk, the Pope, and a rabbi arrived at the pearly gates and are welcomed by St. Peter. The Pope stepped up. St. Peter smiled and said, "Welcome to heaven. You only need to answer one question to enter. What is the true name of God?" The Pope, a pious and devout man who had dedicated his life to the study of the texts in the Vatican, thinks and replies, "Jehovah." St. Peter, with a disappointed look, tells the Pope to go over to the side and sit down on a bench. Next, the rabbi steps up, and St. Peter asks the same question. What is the true name of God? The rabbi, who had faithfully served in countless times, having read the Talmud and the Torah, thought for a moment and said, "Yahweh." St. Peter, even more disappointed and dismayed, tells the rabbi to go sit on the bench next to the Pope and wait. The drunk staggers up. St. Peter looks at the drunk, not expecting much, asks again, "What is the true name of God?" The drunk, a man who had struggled all his life with an addiction but always faithful, looked at St. Peter and said, "Andy!" St. Peter, overjoyed, rushed over to the drunk and placed a robe on his shoulders.
I know where this is
Gabriel
going.
sounded his horns, and the gates opened to let in the drunk.
I hate this
As the
joke
drunk
so
staggered
much.
through the gates,
This
the
is a
Pope and
bad
the rabbi, with
Baptist
looks
joke.
of dismay, yelled to the man and asked, "How did you know that?" The drunk looked over his shoulder and said, "Come on, guys, weren't you paying attention? The Son of God discloses his name is Andy in the song."
And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own.
Great production work. Great production. And I from the Baptist church. I remember hearing that joke from visiting revivalists and whatnot. And okay, it's a clever one because it's a throwback to hymnals, but then to throw in the banjos and to sing that. You failed, Devo, because that was actually well done, sir. That was well done.
Oh, man.
Just be glad I don't remember
Andy.
the controversial one that I was going to tell. I heard, I try to remember the controversial ones when I see them on TikTok. Last week, Kurt, both Joe and Steven left speechless at the end of the show because I hit him with a bad dad joke.
Nice.
All right, so counsel. So Joe, you've got the 3D printer. You need to 3D print us that dice gavel to counsel of dads.
Yep.
What do you guys think about HOAs? Who if you will?
Kurt just face palms.
His face probably muted at the same time.
Well, I face palmed because I was just watching some videos about an HOA who went to a house within the association, and there was a rule in this HOA apparently that when you change the locks on your house,
you have to provide the board of the HOA with a copy of the key.
That's no.
I'm just saying.
Now here's the
so
problem.
the video was the president of the HOA with a locksmith, and it's a Ring video from this person's house. They drilled out their lock.
Now here's the problem, because I bought a house in an HOA many years ago.
Sure.
You get the rules and regs before you ever close on that house. And at least in my case, I was told a million times, read it. Yeah, you read it, read it again.
Right.
Read it again, because this is something you're signing. And the worst, in my case, the worst thing was I gave them money to go away. Like $600 a year for crap. I mean, yeah, I get to go to the pool, which we did some. It was not worth the money. I never would have opted into it, but I left. They're gonna leave me alone. And when they started to try to pull, also I was in a more remote area. It wasn't. So Joe lives in what would be, I would think, is like an ideal city neighborhood. Very tight houses, 2 stories, nice, spread out. I don't know if there's an HOA, but it looks like there could be. In my neighborhood that was an HOA, it looks like you're living in the middle of the woods in a lake community with all kind of wooded properties and things, and cul-de-sacs and windy roads. And so it was an HOA because they wanted us to basically help keep the beaches up. Okay, cool. I use the beaches with my kids, whatever. Here's my money, go away. But we were remote enough that once or twice when they start, somebody's trying to run for council and did the whole stuff, the mailbox thing, and here's who I am, and this is why everybody else is evil. And I made it a point to be on shift on the ambulance at the time when they had their meeting. So I went up there with the ambulance in uniform and said, hey, number one, this is illegal. I don't remember what the code is now, but I was like, USPS, Postal Service, Penal Code, blah, 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 blah. It's just my mailbox. So how about this? Don't ever bother me again, and I won't make you get arrested. Thanks. And they never put it. Nobody came and hung a warning sign. Nobody came and told me to cut my grass. Nobody said bloop. They just left me alone. That's all I want. Yeah, and yeah, I spent for 10 years $600 plus a year to make them leave me alone. I hated that part, but they left me alone.
Yeah, my wife and I, we told our realtor that we wouldn't consider any house with an HOA.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you only hear about the worst ones, but in the best case scenario, I think maybe I was in one of the best case scenarios. You're chipping in together as a community to pay for some of the costs of what we want. Like I said, there was multiple beach and lake accesses for people to put their boats in that needed to be cleaned and maintained, and that kind of thing. But there really wasn't much else. And I see these horror stories of like the gated communities and the people like the HOA board sitting at a table. I saw this one not that long ago where they're sitting at a table. It's a Texas neighborhood somewhere, and they were trying to spend money on some man-made pond or lake or something nobody wanted, and they were legit being yelled down by the audience, by the homeowners, and they just did not care. They just monotoned on right through it. And we've gotten approved, and it was like, no, we're not voting for. We've never voted for. I mean, oh my god,
yeah. It makes me think of that Big Bang episode where Sheldon is the president of the tenants society or whatever for their apartment complex. It's just like these people who decide that they're self-important enough that run for these HOA presidencies, and more often than not, like you said $600 a year, like there's no way that the upkeep cost however many houses times $600 a year.
Oh yeah, there had to be 500 to 1,000 houses in there. Yeah,
they had to have been scamming money out of that. Like it, yeah, no.
And $600 a year now is cheap.
Oh yeah, this was 10
yeah.
I mean, it's probably $1,500, $2,000 a year now in most cases, I would imagine, depending on where you lived in the country. They put out a report of what the money was used for. I don't remember. I looked at it every once in a while just to say, hey, do I need to go? Because I was an EMT and I was bored and I liked causing chaos. So I'm like, hey, I want to see if I can cause some more trouble over here. And it wouldn't be what you and I or Kurt would do. right? If we were to run any kind of organization like that, it would be for the people, by the people, of the people, blah, blah. Whatever. And I understand there are scenarios where it is necessary or where it does work. I believe Hugh, my buddy Hugh, his condo is in one, and like this retaining wall, something happened to it in the condo area. I don't remember if somebody hit it, if it just aged out and crumbled, but that would have been, $100,000 job that nobody would have done because there's no HOA. It's like, I'm not putting money into it, but because they did put their fees in, they all had to vote and approve it because it's a special project, but it did benefit the community to say, hey, we're going to put it up right. We're going to put it up pretty. Here's 3 bids. So it sounds like, he's never complained about his HOA.
Yeah, but he doesn't really ever complain about money in general.
This is true, but yes, you're right. He never called into the show and said, "I've lost tens of thousands of dollars in my retirement." Thanks, guys.
It bounced back.
Is there a scenario in your mind where an HOA is necessary and you would want to be a part of it?
The only time I could see one being necessary is for community facilities, like a community pool or something like that. I would never want to be part of one, but that's where I could see it being necessary if the community had a pool for the upkeep costs.
Yeah, but you know what? The way you get around that, charge a usage fee.
And we actually have an HOA down the road from us that has a pool, and they let outside people opt in to using the pool. So we've paid a membership the last 2 or 3 years to use their pool. So that's kind of like we're opting into their HOA, but just for their pool.
Well, okay, you're not opting into the HOA, but you are contributing to something you want to use, which benefits everybody who does live there, and that helps. And I agree with that. The usage part of it. Our HOA, we did have a pool. We had small kids, and it was ridiculously cheap. It's like $2 a visit to go in, or if we bought the pass, which we usually did, if we bought the yearly pass, like $60 for the year. It was insanely cheap. And as long as the pool was open, you could go every day, all day if you wanted to, but yeah, I lucked out. I had a decent experience, but the whole time I was just begging for somebody to come cause trouble. And that's not a good way to live. I'm almost a homesteader that way. Get off my land. I'm trying to bring you food. Bam! Shut you. Just shotgun.
And I saw a video recently where someone it was either the HOA or the community told him that he had to put up a fence because he had a boat in his driveway. Mm-hmm. And so what he did is he put up the fence, and then he hired a local painter to paint his boat on the fence so that they still had to look at his boat.
Good.
So the fence just became a mural of his boat.
I would be the shining example of malicious compliance, man.
Yep.
Absolutely. Crap, there was something else I was going to throw in there. But anything else on the HOAs, Kurt? You were you obviously.
I've never been part of one. And
I never want to be.
I don't either. I think that they've gotten out of hand, and I understand wanting to maintain some community standards, but when you get that weird power rush that people get from being in charge, it's crazy. I've just heard too many horror stories.
Oh yeah. You can Google HOA horror stories and find pages and pages and pages of just craziness.
Right.
Well, okay, to that point, we're all on that same page. And of course, negativity does sell. So I want to put it out there to all the potential Council of Dad members and all the cousins and the families out there. Do you have positive stories? Did you enjoy being a part of an HOA, or did it help you in some kind of way? Because I haven't seen it yet. Like I said, I don't have much to complain about with mine, but we definitely have seen our stories. So, what do you think going in there?
My in-laws are in an HOA, and it seems rather non-invasive. They haven't really complained about it, so The only thing that I've heard of their HOA doing was they had everyone switch. It was either switch from gas to electric or vice versa for their lights that were on everyone's mailbox. Like it was, and they did that, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. That's the only thing I've heard of them even doing.
Well, if you'd like to throw in some comments on this, and we'd love to hear from you, hit us up at wiseandnerdy.com/calldad. Hit us with your stories, your questions, anything else that you want to throw out there. And, this above all HOA-ness gives me the biggest power rush in the world. Bye, peoples.
Follow these nerdy dads on social media. Charles at Rock God of Podcasting. Joe at Joseph_R.
Follow these
Check out the
nerdy
website,
dads on social media.
wiseandnerdy.com.
Charles
As
at
always,
Rock God of
they may not be
Podcasting.
your father,
And Joe
they'll
at
always be your dad.
Joe_hard, wiseandnerdy.com. And as always, they may or may not be your father.
And VO by Kurt everywhere at VO by Kurt. Shut up, Mike. Twinkie the
Thank-
Kid.
Thanks for the text, Joe. You're right. It was a much better episode without Kelsey interrupting.
Did she text you?